All right, folks. So today we are going to be looking at how to beat a 1-3-1 zone defense. So we're going to break it down. We're going to go over multiple plays. Now, the 1-3-1 zone defense, personally, I think it does have some pros. It has a lot of cons as well. It's not my favorite type of zone defense, but that's not to say coaches don't run it. We know that lots of coaches do run it, and we know that it can be effective. It can get teams in a little bit of trouble here and there. So we're going to look at ways to exploit that zone defense. We're going to look at ways to beat that zone defense if it is giving your team some trouble. So then we can force the team not to play with that defense anymore. Okay, so let's break it down and let's get into how to beat a 1-3-1 zone defense. All right, so we can see here that the defense, which is the blue team, is set up in a 1-3-1 type of defense, right? So this is what we want to beat. Obviously, we can see that they're set up like that in that type of alignment. Now, to beat the 1-3-1 defense, what we want to do is put pressure on the middle, right? They are lined up in a line right here. They want to put pressure on our team up high, right? But what we want to do is penetrate the middle of the key and force them to break, right? So, we don't want to fall into any traps of, going down the sides of the floor and falling into their zone defense, right? We want to get down the middle as quick as we can, break their defense, and force our cuts in this small little window that we might have them. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a strategy to do that. There are going to be some different things that may happen, some different scenarios here. It's not an exact cut and dry play where it's going to work the exact same way every time. There's going to be different scenarios. There's going to be different things that come up. There's going to be different ways that we can read and react to this. So this video is going to be a little bit slower. All right, let's really take a look at it to break it down. Okay, so the first thing that we want our ball handler, number one, to come down the side of the floor. Okay, that's what we want. Now we have to understand here in a 1-3-1, we're going to have this player right here guarding the basketball, right? So this player is going to be guarding the basketball. So they might be looking a little bit, more over here than just standing straight, right? But again, it depends on how, the team is going to be setting up their zone defense. So what we want to do with this 1-3-1 is we want to get the ball to the middle. So how we're going to do that, we have a couple different options. We could have number two come over here and set a screen on number one. So then our number one can get to the middle. So what they're going to do with the basketball is they're going to drive to the middle, and then they're going to seal this defender. So they're going to ensure that they are in front of number one here, right? So that number one can't come off of that screen or backpedal, right, and basically block off our number one. We want to basically seal them, right? After we come off of that screen, we want to, make sure they're behind us, put our butt into them, put our butt into the defender a little bit so that they don't really have the wiggle room, right, to sneak up on us, right? We're pushing them back, okay? So we're getting number one on the blue team completely out of the play. That's what we're doing right here, okay? And we'll go over, there are some other options we can do it without the screen, but we're gonna have number two screen to start. Okay, that's our first thing. Okay, now as that is happening, we're gonna see number three on blue likely take a step up, right? Because we won't want number one. They're not gonna want number one on our team to have momentum right now. That's not what they're gonna want, right? So, we don't want to have momentum here as this particular player and be able to pull up and shoot from the free throw line, right? That's not what they're going to want to do. So they're going to likely come up here, right? And they're going to put pressure on our point guard, our number one. Now, what's going to happen here is we're going to have our number five, and you might see this player move in a little bit because we're, playing a little bit more toward the middle. We're going to have our number five move from the middle to the floor, to the side of the floor, and we're going to have our number five stand between them and the basket and basically seal them. And while we're doing that, we're going to have our hand up, our hand closest to the basket, so we can get the ball into number five, whether that's going to be a bounce pass or a lob pass, depends. But we're going to have the ball into number five. And then that way, right, we are now putting pressure on them. Number five, depending on who he is, he's going to want to penetrate, or she's going to want to penetrate into the key. We're going to want number four and number three to collapse into the key as well. And now we have that advantage, right? We can dish the ball off to number four if it looks like there's more room that way. We can dish it off to number three if it looks like there's more room that way. Or we can just simply attack the basket. Right, so there's lots of different options here that we have, right? But generally what we're doing is we want to put the pressure through that middle of the floor, right, to give us multiple options. We want to find a way to get lower down here so that we are lower than that 1-3-1, right? It's going to have to happen quick. Now let's go over some other scenarios here, okay? Because obviously we went over what would be an ideal situation, but we might not always get an ideal situation. So let's look at some other options that we may have here with our 1-3-1. Okay, so we're still going to want to line up the same way, okay, that we had. We're going to just shift around the players a little bit. Now, what happens if we don't get this screen, right? Do we always have to screen every time? No, we don't always have to screen every time. Okay, what we can also have is number two. If we're seeing in their 1-3-1, they're putting pressure on our ball handler. So maybe number one on their team is up here a little bit. And like I said, they're putting pressure on our ball handler. What can we do then? Well, we can have number two then float toward the middle. We can get the ball into number two, and then that happens the same way. Okay, we're going to have number three then on our team move over to seal that defender, right? We're going to have number two penetrate, right? We're likely going to see number three guard the ball a little bit. And like I said, we're going to seal that defender so that we can get the ball in here. We're getting between them and the basket, and then we can attack the basket. Now, what happens if maybe we can't get the ball to number three? What's another option we can do? Well, there's another option is that we could have number three come in here and set a screen for that blue defender, number three. Now, we're likely going to have a small window because that whole point of that 1-3-1 is they want to trap us right here. But if we come off that screen really quick, right, we're going to have that small window. And if we don't, if we see number two get in here and try to double team, we can dish it off to number five, right? And then we're still going to have that advantage because then it's a 2-on-1, right? So we have lots of different opportunities that we can do here, right? Like lots of different things, lots of different, chances to get into that paint. But either way, we want to keep our drives tight, right? We want to keep them close to the key, right? And then we want to find any chance that we can get to break through that 1-3-1, or specifically that 1-3, right? We're going to break through that, and then that's going to give us the offensive advantage down here, whether that's a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2 or a 3-on-1, like we kind of looked at in our last option. All right, folks, I need to quickly stop right there before we move into our next topic to mention that right now, 97.1% of our daily viewers are not subscribed to our channel. So that means if you are one of these people, if you are one of these 97.1% who are not currently subscribed but are watching this video, it would be greatly appreciated if you could take the time real quick to hit that subscribe button. It will help us continue to make content like this, continue to make basketball plays for other coaches, basketball drills for other players, and basketball, everything that both players and coaches and organizations alike can use. So again, if you could really quickly take the time to hit that subscribe button, it'll just take 2 seconds. It would be greatly appreciated. But moving on to our next topic. All right, so there we have it. That is how we are going to beat a 1-3-1 zone defense. Again, there's lots of different ways to do that. This is my personal favorite way. It has worked for me. It has worked for my teams. But let me know if you'd like to see another type of zone defense, how we can beat that, how we can attack that. Again, the key with a 1-3-1 zone is we want to get past that area of three, right? How do we get past that area of three? When you're looking at different types of zone defenses, right, we want to look for different ways to exploit that. But in that 1-3-1, we want to get past the three. And then once we get past the three, we want to enter that area where there's one player, right? And then we have an advantage, right? We want to send 2 players down there, find ways to have 3 players down there, etc. Right? So that's my favorite way to do it. That's my favorite way to beat a 1-3-1 zone defense.